The Intel CEO Lip Tan has become a lightning rod of controversy amid U.S. and China geopolitical tension. Here's why. Tied to hundreds of Chinese companies and fine U.S. firms raise serious questions about his nationalistic ties. The Intel CEO Lip Tan has swiftly become the controversial figure in the political and technology space following his appointment in March this year. Off the back of the aggressive restructuring and layoff program, which has seen Intel scale back to its ambitions since number of the industry, he's drawn attention for his heavy investment in Chinese companies, some 600 in total, a number of which allegedly have ties to the Chinese military. Lately, he was even called to the White House to face down the president who called for his resignation, though that demand was later walked back the following the meeting. Born in what is now the Malaysia and educated in Singapore, Tan moved to the United States in the 70s and studied business administration. He would later go on to become a founder of the venture capital firm Wealthy International in the late 1980s. During his tenure there, he focused its funding on startups in Asia and was the early investor in the partial state-owned Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation (SMIC), which is now the largest chip manufacturer in China. That didn't start last century. Either in 2023, the House selected the Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, sent a letter to the town raising what was described as a serious concern over his VC from the investment in the various Chinese semiconductor, quantum computing, and artificial intelligence companies. Some of those companies had been blacklisted by the U.S. The Commerce Department for their human rights abuse and Chinese military links, and the WSJ reported early this year. And the town reportedly made at least 25 investments in Chinese chip companies between 2017 and 2020, and 2017 and 2020, and two, accounting for more than 40% of Chinese semiconductor deals coming from the U.S. companies during that time, WSJ found in 2021. Tan has also drawn concern from a range of parties for his involvement with the American Semiconductor and Integrated Circuit Design Company, Cadence Design Systems. Tan was CEO between 2008 and 2021, and the executive chairman until 2023. Cadence recently admitted to selling the chip design software to Chinese companies with military ties over a period of many years during Tan's tenure, and will pay for $140 million fine as a result. This all came to a head last week. Then Senator Tom Cotton raised to concern about Tan's ties to Cadence and pushed for Intel to confirm he had been required to divest from his interest in Chinese companies as part of his appointment at the company. Cotton questioned whether Tan could be responsibly trusted to handle the huge investment Intel had benefited from as part of the nearly $8 billion it would receive as part of the CHIPS Act grant. This was followed by the same condemnation from President Trump, who called Tan to resign at the end of last week, saying that he was highly conflicted. However, following the meeting between the pair on Monday at the White House, Trump changed his tone. The meeting was a very interesting one. His success and rise in an amazing story, he posted on his social network. Through the social, Mr. Tan and my cabinet members are gonna spend together and bring a suggested meet during the next week. Intel public statement claimed that it and the Tan are deeply committed to advance the U.S. national and economic security interests. It also claimed that it was aligned with investment with the President America First agenda and aligned that echoes the statement made by any other U.S. company that found themselves in the President filing line in the past half year. As for Tan himself, he posted a message to Intel staff in August 7, stating, "I want to be absolutely clever. Over 40 more years in the industry, I built a relationship around the world and across our diverse ecosystem, and I have to always operate with the highest rigor and ethical standards. My reputation has been built on trust, then doing what I will say, do what I say I do, and doing it the right way. This is the same way I'm reading the Intel." Intel stock prices jumped shortly after the new positive White House meeting, though the questions still remain about Tan's Chinese ties and the divest his from his link to investment, if at all. Okay, next one is this. Interesting article. Starbucks Korea plays with the customers to stop bringing the desktop PCs into the cafe. It's a countrywide ban on printer, power strip, and desk partitions. A new guide to comfortable use of the store asks the cafe visitors to stop bringing the in-person desktop printer and power strip partition, and etc. And the Starbucks has issued a countrywide crackdown its Korean location, demanding that the customers stop turning its cafes into quasi-WeWork spaces after the spate of incidents involving the people bringing a desktop PC, printer, and even office partitions into stores in the country. Seeing people packing their laptop with the keyboard while the gate gradual latte will be a common enough sight at your local Starbucks in the US. However, some Korean folk has managed to outstretch the limit of the coffee chain hospitality. The Korean Herald reports that every branch of the Starbucks in the nation that has put up the signs telling customers that are bringing in their desk PCs, printers, and power strip, and even putting up the office partitioning is no longer also permitted. Local news reports suggest that Starbucks customers with a penchant for bringing their home office in the cafe and a small but persistent group of the client. The signs urge people to make rooms for their fellow coffee drinker and not to abandon their tech clutter as shared tables for long periods. So the email the machine's translation guided the comfortable use of the store at tables to accommodate multiple people. Please yield your seat to other customers. Personal desktop, printer, power strip, and partition, and etc. It can be used in store to ensure the smooth use of the sheet when you are away from a long time. Please take your belongs. Please take care of your belongs. Starbucks image creative Korean Herald social media. Are you a Kagong joke? Of course, there's already a local word for these busy coffee shop table hogging folks. This Korean Herald said the local team said locals call them the Kagongjo, which is explained is a portmanteau word blending the Korean words with cafe and study tribes. In our topmost pictures, which the Korean Herald simply credited to the social media as, you can see that a particular anti-social setup was spotted in a Starbucks in South Korea, where they assumed the image was originally shared for birth making and their incredible impact. Not only does this coffee shop visitor have a working-looking desktop setup, but where is the system unit, but they have also constructed an isolating office part to the registered distraction. The Sound report suggested that other Starbucks Kagong jokes had been spotted bringing the printers which are typically bulky, as well as the power strips to feed their numerous electronics. South Korea has enjoyed a massive cafe boom in recent years, according to the Statistics Korea, which is quoted by the Herald. The latest figures show the number of the coffee shops operating in the country have almost doubled to 100,000 since 2015. As pointed out, using the GAFAs as a study as workspaces has also grown quickly in popularity. However, the long-staying customers can be costly for owners, stated the source. It cited the Industry Research Institute is estimated a single copy only covers 1 hour and 42 minutes of the time before it becomes unprofitable. Okay, good. Thank you. Next article is the SK Group chairman beats OpenAI CEO Sam Altman to what is this? Yes. The Taiwan plans AI object to boost the economy by the 500. NVIDIA reported pushes the N1X SoC launch to Q1 2026. Is waiting for the right time to roll out next-gen AI chip on next-gen Windows platform division if expected to. As NVIDIA's foray into UA, Windows on ARM segment has run into slight roadblocks as the company is now reported to launch its next-gen N1X SoC in Q1 2026. Microsoft Windows roadmap UA adoption ownership leading to NVIDIA pushback of the NX1 is to correct at Q1 2026. The NN is the coordinator for NVIDIA's first W08 Windows on ARM SoC. This chip has been co-developed with MediaTek and will be the company's first enterprise consumer level offering that will compete with other solutions within the AI PC segment. Related stories: NVIDIA's highly anticipated mini supercomputer, the DGX Spark, launched this month, bridging the emerging AI powers to your hands. Computex 2025, NVIDIA and its partner already gave us an early look at the various devices, including NVIDIA's own DGX Spark, while Asus, Xiaomi, Gigabyte, Lenovo, and Intel, and otherwise actively working with their own offering. While we already had hands on several of these PCs a few months back, it looks like the actual launch has been pushed back to the Q1 2026, originally intended for half of 2025 launching. As per Digitimes, reasoning behind the deals delayed due to several reasons. The first one is Microsoft's development of this next-gen Windows platform, which was intended to launch alongside in the N1X. But it looks like Microsoft's roadmap has faced several slowdowns, and plus proper release of their individual OS update too, which will bring advanced AI features and further define the W08 ecosystem, is still a few quarters away. Report: NVIDIA and MediaTek delay AI PC is launched in 2026 due to the Microsoft OS hurdles and market headwinds. MediaTek and NVIDIA has postponed the launch of their highly anticipated AI PC platform to the quarter of 2026, supply chain sources said, citing a combination delays of show more. And then the adoption of the latest WOA platforms, while the Qualcomm seems to suggest that their laptops moving vast inventories, the actual consumer demand for their laptops is slowing down, and isn't that great. As much as the AI PC narrative has been pushed throughout this year, actual consumers are still reluctant in buying these platforms. Plus, the x86 platforms from the AMD and Intel still hold the majority of the share. And finally, it stated that NVIDIA itself is currently evaluating the new revision of the N1X and N1 SoCs, and the chip is said to be using the TSMC N3V process technology. It features two main components: the Grace ARM CPU and the Blackwell GPU, and this chip is also called GB10 in platforms such as DGX Spark. The N1X SoC designation is more than the consumer side. The new revision is currently set to offer design changes and the various milestones so that when the time comes to launch them, they are fully prepped. Now, in terms of specification, the NVIDIA GB10 Superchip has a lot of similarity with what the N1X will end up being. The chip features the 20 core CPUs based on the Grace architecture of Blackwell GPU with up to 1 petaflops of the FP1S AI. Computer support for up to 128 GB of LPDDR5X memory and advanced I/O technologies. The chip also has appeared with the Geekbench 6 with some spectacular performance numbers. The current top listing had a 3069 single core score and an 18,837 scores in the multi-thread test. The chip clocked at 2.81 gigahertz, and we have seen the GB10 enabled reach to up to the 3.9 gigahertz clocks. For comparison, AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 395 chip with 16 cores and 32 threads and over the 5 gigahertz clocks at 120 watt plus offers around 331 points in a single core and around 1921,000 points in a multi-core performance. So you can tell that even in the early stage, the N1X is performing quite good, and we can expect the revision to take the performance even higher. As per reported, NVIDIA N1 series will have multiple chips with N1 aiming the enterprise commercial segment, N1 aiming the consumer segment, and probably entry-level models for niche markets may be the handheld. The chip was previously expected to offer anywhere between the 180 to 200 AI tops, but with the design revision in questions, we can't really say for sure where the final configuration will end. This chips will offer a competitive landscape against like the AMD's Ryzen AI Max, Apple's M1, and the Intel's AX series offering, which will play a major role in the years ahead. So with the Q1 2026, we can expect more information as CES 2026. How AI chip upstart Furiosa AI won over LG with its power sipping design. Test shows RNGD chips up to 2.25 times higher performance per watt than a 5-year-old NVIDIA Silicon. South Korean AI chip startup Furiosa AI scored a major customer win this week after LG's AI research division tapped its AI accelerators to power servers running its EXA-1 family of large language models. But while floating the point compute compatibility and memory capacity and bandwidth all play a major role in AI performance, LG didn't choose the Furiosa RNGD, pronounced Renegade, and Infineon's accelerator for speed and feature rather than it was power efficiency. RNGD provides a compelling combination benefit, excellent real-world performance, a dramatic reduction in our total cost of the ownership, and surprisingly straightforward in integration. As Ki Jung-jeon is the product unit leader of the LG AI research and said in the canned statement, a quick peek in RNGD spec sheet reveals what appears to be a rather modest chip with a floating point performance coming in between the 256 and 112 teraflops, depending on whether you opt for 16 or 8-bit precision. Memory capacity is also rather medium, and with 48 GB across the pair of HGM3 stacks, that's good about 1.5 TB per bandwidth. Compared to the AMD's NVIDIA's latest crowd of the GPU, RNGD doesn't look at the competitive until you consider the fact that the Furiosa has managed to do all this using just 180 watts of power. In testing, LG Research found the parts were as much as 2.25 times more than efficient than GPUs for LLM inference in the home ground family of EXA-1 models. Before you get excited, the GPUs in question are NVIDIA's A100s, which are getting rather long in the tooth. They made their debut just as the pandemic was kicking off in 2020. But as Furiosa AI CEO Pune Baek tells RAG, while the NVIDIA's GPU have certainly gotten more powerful in the 5 years since an A100 debut, that performance has come at the expense of a higher energy consumption and die area. While a single RNGD PCI card cannot compete with NVIDIA's H100 or B200 accelerators on raw performance, in terms of the efficiency, the number of the flops you can squeeze from each watt, the chips are more competitive than you might think. Back credit much of the company's efficiency advantage here to RNG's tensor contraction processor architecture, which he said required far fewer instructions to perform matrix multiplication than an GPU and minimize data movement. The chips also benefit from the RNG's use of HBM, which Bex said requires far less the power to rely on the GDDR, like we've seen some NVIDIA's low power low end offer like the L40S and RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell cards, roughly the 1.4 teraflops per watt. RNGD is actually closer to the NVIDIA's Hopper generation than to the A100. RNGD's efficiency becomes even more apparent if we shift focus to the memory bandwidth, which is arguably the more important factors when it becomes the element of inference. As a general rule, the memory of bandwidth you've got, the faster it will split out tokens. Here again, at 1.5 terabyte per second, RNGD memory isn't particularly fast. NVIDIA's H100 offers both a higher capacity at 80 GB and between the 3.35 terabyte per second and 3.9 terabyte per second bandwidth. 9 terabytes bandwidth. However, the chip uses anywhere from the 2 to 3.9 times the power. For roughly the same wattage as an H100 XMX module, you could have the 4 RNGD cards telling the 2 teraflops of 10 FP8 and 192 GB of HBM and 6 TB per memory bandwidth. There is still a ways behind NVIDIA's latest generation of the Blackwell parts, but far closer the RNGD low speed and feature will you have the belief. Since RNGD is designed solely with inference in mind, models rarely can be spread across the multiple accelerators using the techniques like tensor parallelism, even the multi-systems using the pipeline parallelism. Real-world testing. LG AI actually used 4 RNGD PCI cards in a tensor parallelism configuration to run its in-house XR132 billion model at a 16-bit precision according to PAC. As LG has a very specific performance target it was looking for is when validating chip for use. Notably, the constraint included the time to first token TTFT, which measures the amount of time you have to wait belong to LLMs start generating a response of roughly 3.0 seconds for more modest 300 tokens prompt over 4.5 seconds for a large 30,000 token prompt. In case you're wondering, these tests are analog to medium to large summarization tasks, which put more pressure to the chip's compute surface than a shorter prompt would have. LG found that it was enabled to achieve this level of the performance, which churning about the 50 to 60 tokens a second at batch size of 1. According to the backers, these tests were conducted using FP16 since 1800 that LG compared against do not natively support 8-bit floating point activations presumably dropped down to the FP8 would essentially double to the modest throughput and reduced TTFT. Using multiple cards does come with some inherent challenges, in particular the tensor parallelism that allows both modest weight and the computation to be spread across the 4 or more cards rather than network intensive. Unlike NVIDIA's GPUs, which often feature speedy proprietary NVLink interconnect that shuffle data between the chips at more than the terabyte a second, Furiosa stuck with a good old PCIe 5.2, which is tops out at 120 GB per card. And in order to avoid interconnection bottlenecks and overhead Furious study modified the chip's communication scheduling and compiled to overlap the chip direct memory access operations. But because RNGD hasn't shared figures for higher batch sizes, hard to say just how well this approach scales. At a batch of ones, the number of tensor parallel operation is relatively few, he admitted. According to the back, the individual performance should only drop by the 20 to 30% at a batch 64. That suggests the same setup they should be able to achieve the close to 2,700 tokens a second of the totals throughout the support a fairly large number of concurrent users without hard details. We can only speculate. So the competitive landscape, in any case, Furious chips are good enough that the LG's AI research division plans to offer servers powered by RNGD and the enterprises utilizing its X1 models. After extensively testing a wide range of options, we found the RNGD to be a highly effective solution for deploying X1 model, John said. Similarly to NVIDIA's RTX Pro Blackwell-based system, LG RNGD boxes will be available with up to 8 PCIe accelerators. These systems will run what Furious describes as a highly mature software stack, which includes a version of VLLM, a popular model serving runtime. LG will also offer a agentic AI platform called ChatXI1, which bundles up a bunch of framework to big document analysis, deep research, and data analysis, and richer for augmented generation, RAG. So the Furious power also persuasion don't stop at LG either. As you may recall, Meta reportedly made an $800 million bid to acquire the startup earlier this year, but ultimately failed to convince Furious as a leader to hand over the keys to the kingdom. Furious benefits from the growing demand for sovereign AI models, software, and infrastructure designed and trained on home-owned hardware. However, to compose on a global scale, Furious faces some challenges, most notably NVIDIA and AMD's latest crop of the GPUs not only offer much higher performance, memory capacity, and bandwidth than the RNGD, but not by our estimate are a fair bit more energy efficient. The NVIDIA's architectures also allowed for a greater degree of the parallelism thanks to its earliest investment in rack-scale architectures, a design point we are only now seeing the chip makers embrace. Having said it, it was nothing the design process for RNGD began in 2022, but for the OpenAI's ChatGPT kicked off the AI boom. At this time, the models like BERT were mainstream with regard to language models. However, that the GPT was going to take off to underline the architecture was going to become the new horn and informed the decision like using the HBM versus GDDR memory. In retrospect, I think I should have made an even more aggressive bet on the basic 4 HBM stacks for approved computer dies on a single package pack set. We've seen a number of computer chip companies, including NVIDIA and AMD, SambaNova, and others, embrace this approach in order to scale their chips beyond the electrical limit. And despite being what it is, Back says now the Furious has managed to prove out its tensor compression processor architecture, HBM integration, and software stack. The company simply needs to scale up its architecture. We are very solid building block, he said. We are quite confident that you said scale up this architecture. It will be quite competitive against all the other GPU chips. Okay. Thank you for your time. See you next time.